Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong stunned Tucker Carlson as he exposed the rising rates of cancer due to the impacts on the human body caused by the COVID-19 virus. Dr. Soon-Shiong is a surgeon who has spent his career developing cancer treatments, and what I learned from these clips that I'm about to show you shocked me. Tucker hits the nail on the head, as you're about to see in this first clip. What is being talked about here is not just some pandemic that we got out of, but perhaps the worst health crisis in human history. They address who is to blame and why in the second clip that I have for you. Then they finish with the solution and what you can do to protect yourself. I don't leave you hanging here. Let's get started. I'm Zach Costello. What in the world has been unleashed upon us by this man-made in a lab virus? This is a virus that compromises our immune system, wreaking havoc through inflammation and puts us at risk for all sorts of health issues, and as you just heard, increased risk for cancer. In this next clip that I have, Tucker asked Dr. Soon-Shiong if he's ever had COVID, and listen to his answer and what he did to prevent it, and the role that Dr. Anthony Fauci played in the FDA in preventing this type of treatment and why.
Have you had COVID?
No.
Lucky man.
Not lucky man. T-cell man. I have a T-cell in my body that protects me from the nucleic capsid.
Where do I get one?
That trial was held up by the FDA and by Carlson and Fauci.
But you never got COVID because your protector cells were so strong?
Not only a protector cells, if I do get COVID, the virus clears. You want to clear the virus.
Get the hell out of my body.
Get it out.
Wait, I just want to pause here. I know you're in the midst of a much larger story, but this is something I think everyone can understand. So I think I'm in good health. I am in very robust.
Did you have COVID?
I did.
How many times?
One. I never took the vaccine.
Okay.
But I got COVID, knocked me right on my butt. It was a bad 3 days. Fine. But I don't understand. You're older than I am. How did you never get, I just want to get very specific. Like, everyone on the planet got COVID.
Okay. So let me give you some idea. Okay. One, because we understand the implications. My wife, touch wood, also never got COVID because of both of us. So this is the story. Unfortunately, I relate this. It's a painful thing to me because I relate it to Kobe's death. It was during Kobe's time when he passed away, and at the funeral,
Kobe Bryant, who you were close to,
correct, very close to, and at the funeral, at his funeral, all the people in the room, and it was, I think, November. And I turned to Gavin Newsom and I said, listen, this is one virus I'm worried about because I was studying this virus. I understand HPV very well and I understand hepatitis. I said, this is not a respiratory virus. This is a dangerous virus. So I went back and I shut down our organization so that we could actually do nothing else but COVID. My entire team of hundreds of scientists on Zoom and everything else around the world. I said, we must go after this virus with a vaccine that clears the virus. And the only way to clear the virus is to have what we call a T cell, an NK cell, the cells that kills cancer cells. And I wrote a paper with Carl Scodone that said COVID's like cancer and cancer's like COVID, meaning it's immunosuppression that causes its spread. And it's immunosuppression by the COVID virus that allows it to persist. So the only vaccine that's important is a T-cell vaccine. But that's what I'm telling you. Virologists think about antibodies versus cellular therapy. It's foreign to them to have a vaccine that stimulates T-cells. So I said, I understand that internally.
It's a little weird since in 20 minutes you explained it to me, not particularly high IQ, not a scientist. I understand exactly what you're saying. Why isn't it obvious to virologists? Why isn't that like day one lesson in virology school that the T cells, that the cells that protect you against all potential internal harm, like they're the key?
Because every vaccine so far is antibody-based. Dogma.
Dogma.
Blind spots.
Okay. Now we're cooking with gas. Now I understand what you're talking about. Dogma. Blind spots. Nicely put.
Dogma. So all that talk about the science, Dr. Fauci even making the claim that he is the science himself, prevented us from actually creating a treatment or vaccine that could truly clear the virus from the body. Even worse and more disgusting, Dr. Anthony Fauci's fortune doubled from 2019 through 2023, according to 141 pages of financial disclosure forms as reported by the New York Post. Criminal stuff. But that's a matter that isn't going to help us at this point clear our bodies of the inflammation and strengthen our immune systems. In this next and final clip, Tucker asks about the solution and what we can do about it. The killer cell is what helps your body fight. You need to activate it, and here's how.
What are some of the obvious things a person can do to strengthen his immune system?
So you ask, what activates the natural killer cell? So
Yes.
it's like, when you look at the leaf and you talk about apoptosis, and the leaf actually sits and goes brown, and it changes, but then it goes back up. So all of human nature, all of nature is filled with this biology of this balance. So you're a product of nature. I mean, literally you're a product of when you were a tadpole and a fish as we came out. So this cell is evolved since the Cambrian age. Think about that. This natural killer cell in your body. I published my first article in Natural Killer Cell in 1990. This cell was only discovered in the 1970s. Think about that. And we've ignored that cell. This is what I call the missing link. I'm going to announce that at the American Urology Conference in Las Vegas in the end of this month. We have discovered, I've not discovered the missing link, we've discovered the awareness of this missing link and how to activate this missing link. So the idea is to activate the natural killer cell. It has 30,000 receptors on this cell. What this natural killer cell does, it replenishes itself with sleep. So sleep is important. It replenishes itself with light, with sunlight. And I believe there's a certain wavelength, the red wavelength in the sunlight, that it actually requires for it to be stimulated. So
This is why people get sicker in the winter.
exactly, that's why Seattle has the highest suicide rate. Think about that, right? So these things, and if you look at the places like Norway and Sweden where there's very little sun, Finland. So nature is all about light, sunlight. So that's why I think this is...
I like obvious observation. Nature's all about sunlight, of course. Plants don't grow without sunlight.
Right. And at the end of the day, we're either about neutrons, photons, and electrons. That's what we are. We as a human being is nothing else but a battery and end gate. When you think about that, right? So we have a bunch of electrons and neutrons and charges that are floating through us that actually interact. And that's how I think of the human body. That's what I said. I think of it as an astrophysicist. It's crazy, but that's how my mind works.
So sleep, getting sunlight.
And having food that doesn't immunosuppress. Your biome, the bacteria in your body sends out materials that actually will immunosuppress or activate.
What are the immunosuppressive foods?
Unfortunately, I think most natural foods are fine. It's the toxins in the food. Exactly what I said, the excipients. So when we talk about the red dye, the processed foods, all this unnatural processed stuff ultimately cause inflammation. Now, when it gets back to this plasticity of inflammation, inflammation causes immunosuppression because it causes all these cells to flip from the killer state to the suppressor state.
Sleep, get outside in sunlight, move your body on a daily basis, and stop eating foods that are causing inflammation like processed foods. Eat real food. Guys, doing these things consistently on a daily basis and improving your mitochondrial function. I've done videos on intermittent fasting as well, which has been a game changer for me. These things are very important ways to prevent yourself against a world trying to destroy you. We see that happening. Another way, and finally, prayer and remaining aligned with your Creator, the way that leads to life. This is not just a religious thing. It is the best way to live for human beings. I hope this helps. I'm Zach Costello.